Hi, and welcome to this episode of John's Model Kit Review. In today's fun classic kit review video, we'll be taking a look at the HobbyCraft Polikarpov I-16 Type 18 in 1/48 scale. This is HobbyCraft kit number 1577. In this review, we'll be looking at photos of the built-up kit. We'll also go through the kit instructions, and we'll talk about any problem areas to watch out for during construction. We'll look at the surface detailing on the exterior of the aircraft. We'll also talk about the detailing on the interior of the aircraft and on the landing gear as well, and other small bits. We'll look at the painting and marking guide, and then we'll also talk about the quality of the decals themselves. I built this kit many years ago. This was the first model kit that I ever used an airbrush on. I've also subsequently built the Eduard I-16, and I will feature that in a later review video. A brief history of the I-16. The Polikarpov I-16 is a Soviet single-engine, single-seat fighter aircraft of revolutionary design. It was the world's first low-wing, cantilever monoplane fighter with retractable landing gear to attain operational status, and as such, it introduced a new vogue in fighter design. The I-16 was introduced in the mid-1930s, and it formed the backbone of the Soviet Air Force at the beginning of World War II. The diminutive fighter, nicknamed Ishak or Donkey by Soviet pilots, figured prominently in the Second Sino-Japanese War, the Battle of Khalkhin Gol, the Winter War, and the Spanish Civil War, where it was called the Rata by nationalists or Mosca by the Republicans. Over 10,000 I-16s were built. The I-16 was used by the Soviet Air Force, it was used by the Spanish Republican Air Force, and the Chinese Nationalist Air Force. The I-16 Type 18, which is the subject of this kit, was powered by a Shetsov M62 engine, producing 830 horsepower. It had a 2-speed supercharger and a variable pitch propeller. Armament on the I-16 consisted of 4 SHKAS machine guns, 2 synchronized in the fuselage and 2 in the wings. The I-16 was also capable of carrying rockets and bombs in operational service, and it served as a fighter and as a ground attack aircraft. Looking at the kit instructions, Step 1 is really broken down into 2 separate steps. In the first part of Step 1, we are assembling the cockpit interior. That includes the seat and the cockpit floor, the control column, and the instrument panel. Once that is completed, we are mounting that inside the fuselage halves, and we are closing the fuselage halves around the interior. Even though this plane has an open cockpit, very little is going to be visible on the finished kit. I really can't find an angle where I can actually see the control panel, so you don't have to spend a lot of time detailing that. I would recommend putting some aftermarket lap belts on the pilot's seat just to dress up what you can see. In the second part of Step 1, we are attaching the tail planes, we're attaching the pilot's headrest, we're attaching the engine, and we're also attaching the wings to the aircraft. If you're planning to mount the rockets that are included with this kit, you do need to drill out the holes for the rockets in this step. Overall, I found the fit on all of these parts to be very good. When I built this kit, I wasn't quite as careful about the seams as I am today, but I think you could build this kit almost putty-free if you took your time and you dry fit the parts carefully. You can see there's a little bit of engine detail visible through the openings in the engine cowling. In Step 2, we're mounting the landing gear to the aircraft, and we're also mounting the front of the engine cowl, as well as the prop and spinner. The landing gear is an area on the I-16 that is somewhat complicated, and I highly suggest looking at some reference photos to see how all of these parts go together. I think the instructions could be a little bit better in this area. Step 3 is another 2-part step. In the first part of Step 3, we are mounting the wing guns. We're also mounting the covers for the fuselage guns. We're mounting the clear parts, as well as a few other bits. All of these parts fit great. I didn't have any trouble with these areas. There's one clear part on this kit, and it looks fine in this scale. In the second part of Step 2, we're mounting the underwing armament, and then we're also mounting a cover underneath the engine. I had no issues with this step of construction either. And that brings us to the color and marking guide. There are 2 marking options included. Both of the marking options are for an I-16 Type 18 in 1942. as far as accuracy goes. I was able to find historical photos of both of these aircraft. I would say the camouflage pattern on White 13 is not accurate, so I have some corrections scribbled on the marking guide. For this aircraft, I use the second marking option. I had no issues with the decals, and the only thing that is questionable in the marking guide is the red flash on the tail fin. I don't think this had a red fin, as cool as it looks. I went ahead and painted it per the kit instructions, and I'm very happy with the way the kit turned out. Ironically, when I built the Eduard kit many years later, I actually used the decals for the first marking option to complete that kit, and those turned out nicely as well. In conclusion, I had a lot of fun building this classic kit. As far as the detail and the quality of the moldings, this kit still holds up very well today. Detail-wise, it is only marginally behind the Eduard kit in certain areas. I think certain areas of it are actually better than the Eduard kit. I prefer the detail on the engine on the HobbyCraft kit to that of the engine on the Eduard kit. And the completed kit certainly looks like an I-16. The surface detailing on the wings and on the tail are represented by some engraved panel lines and some raised lines, but the raised panel lines represent ribs that are on the actual surface of the aircraft wings. So that's not a detractor here. This simple kit allowed me to focus on my painting and weathering skills, and I was able to use an airbrush for the first time to good effect on this aircraft. My only complaint with the instructions on this aircraft is that they don't precisely show the location of the landing gear legs and the gear doors and how everything works on this kit. And it's a fairly complicated system on this aircraft, so clarity here would definitely be appreciated. This kit sits proudly on my shelf next to the Eduard I-16, and you have to look very closely to see the detail differences. Well, I'd love to know what you guys think. If any of you out there have built the HobbyCraft I-16 previously, please let me know in the comment section below. As always, I hope you found this video entertaining and informative, and until next time, model on.